As you can see right here, this is a theater exclusive Bandai figure. To be specific, this is actually the second one ever made by Bandai. So, what are theater exclusive Bandai figures exactly? Theater exclusive Bandai figures are basically the limited edition versions of the normal vinyl figures that Bandai makes. Like what the name says, they are commonly sold in movie theaters, usually during the premiere day of a Godzilla or Gamera film. Most of the time, they are molded in one color of clear vinyl with painted highlights. But some of them, like this Gamera figure, they are actually a bit experimental with the colors. This Gamera figure is trying to emulate the scene where Gamera used his final attack against Legion, the Mana Cannon, in the climax of the movie he's in, Gamera 2, Attack of Legion. So, is this rare and expensive figure worth it for a spot for your collection? Well, come and join me and let's find out. Sculpt and detail. Keep in mind, since this is basically a repaint of the original Gamera Bandai figure, they basically have the same mold and detail. But to make it simple and short, Gamera has a lot, and I mean a lot, of surface detail. To the wrinkles on his body, to the detail on his shell, and the nicely sculpted face with the cool looking gold teeth. And also, the figure itself is molded with this beautiful translucent vinyl. It's basically all over the figure, and if you want, you can shine a light through it to make the figure glow. But even though this figure is sculpted and molded well, I think there's gonna be one potential issue that some collectors are going to be upset over. That being the battle pose that this figure is in. Personally, for me, it doesn't bother me in the slightest, but I think there are some collectors that might prefer the normal standing pose for their kaiju figures. And lastly, the paint. Gamera has some gold highlights all over the figure, like for example, on the shell, on the tail, and even on his eyes and teeth. And there's even some gold paint on his nails. And there's a bit of red paint on his head and his mouth. Since this is a standard Bandai vinyl, there's only a few points of articulation on this figure. Anyways, Gamera has swivels on the head, arms, legs, and even the tail. So Gamera only has 6 points of articulation. So this Gamera figure is weird if you're going to talk about its size, because in first glance you might think this Gamera figure is 6 inches tall, but I bet you guys won't believe me, but this figure is supposed to be in the 8-inch scale. Yeah, I know, that sounds very weird, since this figure is actually 6 inches tall. But let me explain. Basically, the Heisei Bandai Gamera line has its own different scale. It's not like your average 6-inch scale with your Ultraman and Godzilla figures at the time. And to prove my point, the first ever figures that were made in the Heisei Gamera line were the Gaios and the Gamera figures that were actually standing around 8 inches tall. But you might say, "But MIKMIK, how come this figure only stands around 6 inches? That doesn't make any sense." Well, remember when I said this figure was on a bow pose? Well, since it's in a crouching pose, it makes this figure look like a hunchback, and because of this figure's bad posture, the figure is standing at 6 inches. And if we compare this Gamera figure with other kaiju figures, it feels like it doesn't scale well with most of them. And to prove my point, here's some pictures of this Gamera figure with my other kaiju toys. Now Now, even though that I'm very grateful for having this figure in my collection, since it's a very rare theater exclusive figure, I'll admit this figure has some flaws. Like for example, the weird pose that this figure is in, and the questionable scale that this figure is also in. Now, aside from how expensive and rare this figure is, there is just simply a more better Gamera figure in the market now that is more movie accurate and it's more affordable. And even if Bandai only made the normal version of this design of Gamera, it doesn't change the fact that Bandai themselves might do another repaint of this figure, but with the theater exclusive colors. I mean, let's be honest here, Bandai is the type of toy company that always loves to reuse and repaint the same toy with a different coat of paint over and over and over again, and they pretend it's some sort of new product with a new, more expensive price tag whenever they got the chance. I'm looking at you, Shin Godzilla and Hedorah. But anyways, if you don't mind the flaws this figure has, and if you want a presentable Gamera figure that looks pretty good on your shelf, I suggest getting this theater exclusive Bandai figure. But anyways, if you want to see more reviews and videos from me, I suggest to like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.
Happen with a crazy rap skill. Get ready to rumble. Now be the time, If you ain't know, now you know. Good luck, Phyllis. Impossible, see invisible. Row, fight the power. Hush the untouchable, break the unbreakable. Row, fight the power. What you wanna do is what you wanna do. Just break the rule and you see the truth. You see the cute, cheap, baby. Row, fight the power. Second verse dedicates to the real peeps. What we gotta say is so real thing, cause revolution ain't never gonna televise. Kicking a map, whoa, microphone phenotype.